What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and in today's video I'm going to be doing my Thorpe Fright Nights 2019 review. Now, do keep in mind that this is all judged on my run through of these mazes. Some of them may be different when you visit the park, so definitely do take it with a grain of salt because things can definitely change. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Now, to kick off this review, I'm going to be starting with my least favourite maze, and that is Living Nightmare. Now, Living Nightmare was one of my favourites last year, however it hasn't changed too much this year, but the contrast with the different mazes is a lot different this year than it was last year. If you went to the event last year, some of the new mazes weren't too good and it was generally not a very good event, so that kind of made Living Nightmare stick out a little bit more. However, this year we've got some really strong mazes and overall is a very good event, and that means Living Nightmare is showing its true colours. This problem I had with this maze was the lack of actors. Now, like I said, this can easily change if you go to the event and you know, go for these attractions yourself. I am going to try and go to Thorpe Fright Nights a couple more times in the window that it's open, just to kind of get an idea of how these mazes actually run averagely. But on my run through, there was a very significant lack of actors, mainly a significant lack of, you know, actors that were scary. Now, don't get me wrong, everything up until about the hospital scene is amazing. You go into the pre-show like normal. Spoilers ahead, by the way, if you don't want to hear them. You walk into Negan's room, he sort of questions you. He then picks someone out from the group to go and get on their knees, which I think would be a terrifying experience if you were the person getting on your knees. But then after that, you sort of go into the hospital scene. There's only really one zombie in there. And when you're in a big group, one zombie to scare up a group of like 6, 7, 8 or even 9 doesn't really work very well, and this continues to happen as you go through the different rooms in the maze and progresses up until about the strobe section. Now, the strobe section, I almost like to say, is one of the best parts of this maze. You have multiple actors in that one room, which does make the maze, and I feel like if you're going to do a Walking Dead maze with zombies, there needs to be a significant amount of zombies in the room with you to feel like you're maybe trying to get through a horde or something like that. I feel like it would make, you know, the attraction not scarier. Now, I know obviously actors aren't easy to find, and obviously they may not have too many to their disposal, but I do feel like it would benefit the maze a lot. From that point onwards, you then go into the jungle scene, which is quite cool. You know, it's something new they've added. I'm pretty sure it's from the new season of The Walking Dead, but I don't watch it, so I don't know. But that was probably the scariest part of the maze. Good jump scares in there. But then it just ends abruptly, and this is where I have my main problem with it, is it lacks a good ending. Like with Do or Die, I was told to duck down and like sprint out of the maze, you know, by someone with a gun. I'll get to that a bit later. Obviously, when you've got things like Creek Free, you get chased out the corridor. For this, it just basically abruptly ends. However, this isn't to say this is a bad maze at all. I do really like this maze, but like I said, in contrast to the other mazes this year, it really could up its game. Moving on to my fourth favourite maze at this year's Fright Nights, and that is Blair Witch. Now, Blair Witch to me is a massive step up from last year. If you didn't already know, Blair Witch used to be a maze at the park ages and ages ago, and they brought it back for last year as sort of like a grand reopening. However, it wasn't the best, but it was definitely certainly better than what it was prior to then. However, they have definitely upped their game once again this year, and basically added a whole new extension at the beginning. You're led through this building, you're having to go through these trees. Now, this is where the problem for me comes in. Now, basically what happens is, after you've gone through the small little indoor section, you then move out into a spot where you think you have to go to the end, but then it ends up being a dead end. You can't go any further. Now, I do really like this element, and I know why Thorpe have put it in, and that is because obviously the whole thing around Blair Witch, the fact that you get lost in the woods and you can't find your way. However, it does cause a lot of congestion. Now, with my time doing Blair Witch, I did it twice when I went to Fright Nights. The first time we all got lost and we were fumbling around trying to find ourselves, and then I ended up getting pushed to the back, and it was a massive kerfuffle. Then the second time I did it, we were at the front and having a really good experience going around. But then we got to the dead end, and then another group started to come behind us, so that caused a lot of traffic in the way that other groups were colliding with other groups, which was really bad in my opinion. However, to fix this, I do believe there is an easy way. Now, to be honest, I feel like if you had a guide through this section, I feel like it could be much better. So maybe sneaking an actor into the group that maybe he dresses like a normal person and is just like in disguise, and then they start freaking out saying what's going on and sort of like saying to you that hit a dead end, and at that point they then slowly give you hints on where to actually go. Now I feel like that could work a lot better. It would make the maze flow a lot smoother, and to be honest, make the experience a lot better. But moving that to a side, that's only a minor detail for this maze. The theming is brilliant. I absolutely adore the theming in this maze, and I would probably say next to Creek Freak, this is the best themed maze at the park this year. You're going through like these wooden archways, you're going past the trees, you're literally physically having to push the trees out of the way. Obviously you go through the building sections, and it is a huge step up from last year. However, the one problem I've always had with Blair Witch is the lack of opportunities to scare people. Now most of the scares in this maze come from people jumping out of you from the bushes, which by all means is pretty terrifying when you're at the front. Now, like I said, the first time we went on this, my section of the group, me and my friends, were at the front, and then when we hit the dead end we were sort of pushed back a little bit, which then meant we knew that the people were coming after, we heard people screaming towards the front of the group, and then it made us sort of feel like, oh, you know what, I know it's coming now, it's not that scary. However, when I did it the second time around and actually stayed at the front and actually knew where I was going, it was absolutely terrifying. Now, it's the problem I've got with some mazes is the fact that if it relies too heavily on jump scares, it's very easily, just mainly scary for the front of the group, which I think Blair Witch could easily work on. I mean, it really depends on the app, because like I said, you could get a way better run through than I did, but as it stands, that was probably my biggest problem with Blair Witch. So moving on to my third favourite maze at Thorpe Park Fright Nights, and that is The Walking Dead Do or Die. Now, The Walking Dead Do or Die was, again, a very strong maze last year, and probably was one of my favourites, and they somehow have managed to one-up it once again. Now, it does take a completely different route this time. I even got confused when I first went in this, thinking I had to go up to the top, but you actually have to kind of curve round, and there's a little side entrance to a container, but oh my god, is this maze amazing. Now, theming in this maze has always been good. I mean, last year we had a lot of theming that was obviously themed to The Walking Dead. Like I said, I haven't really seen it, so I don't really know what to compare it to. All I know is that it does take place in Terminus. Now, pretty much you go through the same layout really, except it is a lot more heavily container based this year, which I really do love. However, there are a little bit of missed opportunities I got on my run through of this maze. Isolation chambers didn't work. Well, not didn't work, I just didn't get taken into one. And also the whole trough section, obviously I didn't really get told to get on my knees, which is what I kind of was going in expecting, but when I think about it, it's hard to do that when you're in a large group. However, I have heard that some people have been taken into the isolation rooms, so it is definitely something the actors do, but I think it's more of a luck-based thing. I did manage to go on it twice at Fright Nights, once in the daytime and then once at night, and I can wholeheartedly say that this maze is the best during the night time. Obviously this means you don't really see as much. However, I would advise, possibly, this may sound a bit crazy to some of you, is maybe trying to do it at sunset. I feel like it does give the maze a really good sort of like mood to it. I mean, it does not really make a scary mood, but it just makes you sort of become in the scene. Now, last year, if you went on Do or Die, or if you watched some videos of Do or Die last year, you will know that half of the fences that were kind of setting out the pathway to the maze were, pretty much painted black. Now, I didn't really like this. It wasn't really immersing me into the experience. So, obviously, Thorpe have gone and done something about this, and now they are basically like tarpaulins with like blood handprints and stuff on it, and it looks really incredible. So, it's a minor change, but the small things make the big things, more exciting. So, obviously, like I said, a lot more containers are being used this year, and I'm not lying, there is, I think, over 5 containers in it this year, and all of them are good. I'm not going to rant on too much about this, obviously, because I want you guys to experience it yourself, but I do agree with the theme in this maze. I feel like it is absolutely incredible. Now, scare-wise, I do believe this is a little bit more tamer than last year. However, that is because the chainsaw is not featured, obviously because it's in Creek Freak now. However, it does mean that, doesn't mean to say that it's not scary at all. I absolutely love this maze, and I think it's still one of the scarier ones at the park. It's more of a fear of, endangering safety. It's one you can more relate to, really. Like, cannibalism is a real thing when you think about it, and much like Creek Freak, it does feel like this could be very real. Okay, so now finishing off this little section of Do or Die, basically, the ending is kind of different on this. Now, the first time I went on this, we were told to sort of get down, duck down. I'm pretty sure there's a character that had like zombie guts on them with a gun. I don't know whether that relates to The Walking Dead, because like I said, I haven't seen it. However, they told us to stay down low, and they counted to 3 and they said run. So we all sprinted, and then a zombie came out and jumped in front of my friend, stopping him in his tracks. And to be fair, I absolutely love that. I love the fact they're incorporating it and immersing you in it. They're not sort of saying, oh yeah, that's the exit, and that being abruptly ending. They're like, get down, and then they say run, and then you literally sprint out the maze, and it, you know, it feels like you're transitioning from the maze back into reality in a really cool way. So that's it for Walking Dead Do or Die. Like I said, a phenomenal maze. Now it's time to get into my number 2 maze. So moving on to my second favourite maze at this year's event, and that is Platform 15. Now Platform 15's been going for quite a while now. If you've been in the recent years, you should remember it. However, they once again have upgraded this maze. Now this main upgrade comes from the end of the attraction. You're led after the tunnel into a small room, but I will talk about that a little bit later. Now, scare factor wise, brilliant, absolutely amazed. The one problem I can fault it with is the tunnel needed some more actors, but once again, you know, that could change on other people's run-throughs. What I did get was absolutely amazing though. Actor quality in there, phenomenal. When we got to the house, you know, me and my friends were at the front once again. This actor came out and started spitting water everywhere and sort of making the noises they make, and it was brilliant. Trust me, if you're going to go to Fright Nights and you're going to queue up for one during the night time, this would be the one to do. Now, theming wise, Platform 15 has always been one of the stronger ones at the park. Obviously you have the whole tunnel section at the end, you have the house section, you even have the train that's there with the pyrotechnics, the fire coming out, all the smoke, sound effects, everything is phenomenal in this maze. And to be fair, I would have said that this is my favourite maze this year if Creek Freak weren't here, but we'll talk about that in a minute. However, I do give this a very good strong review, as to be quite honest, last year it was pretty much the same. However, they've really upgraded it this year, made it a lot more scarier and have a lot more to look at. Now moving on to the final scene, you're basically led into a room. For us, I've been hearing that it's a little bit different for everybody else, but for my run through, we were led into the room. There was sort of like a tour guide there telling us about it. Then we had someone knock on the window. Now, this is the point where I actually thought that this was a real thing. So someone dressed in makeup like an actual actor started knocking on the window asking whether they could go on their break. So I'm sitting there like, oh, come on, have they seriously interrupted the maze just because they want to go on the break? Because I thought this actor was generally, you know, breaking his character to ask the guy in there whether he was going on the break. And to reinforce this, the actor that was in the room with us went, no, I've got another group coming, sort of making you think, oh wait, yeah, this is actually a real person. However, this was swiftly taken away when the guy standing outside the window got attacked by the conductor, and it was basically the whole setup for the finale. Now, I really do like this because it basically forces you into a sense of security and then just rips that away and you're told to run out of the exit. And oh my god, Platform is brilliant this year, absolutely amazing. And that is why it's my number 2 maze at the park this year. To my favourite maze at this year's Fright Nights, this is Creek Freak Massacre. Now, if you've been following Fright Nights for a while, you know that the only real big new attraction coming to the event this year was in the form of Creek Freak Massacre. Now, it's just located in the old Loggers Leap station, and if you've been keeping up with the marketing, like the advertisements, you will know that Thorpe Park have branded this their most intense maze ever, and boy, does it succeed in that. So, Creek Freak Massacre is, to put it in one word, terrifying. Now, to be fair, when I was going into this, I was a little bit sceptical. Like, them branded it as their most intense maze ever. I was sort of like, I'll believe it when I see it. But I came out of that maze absolutely loving it. Now, I did start going to Fright Nights last year, so I haven't experienced too much in the way of Fright Nights. However, this is probably the best maze I have done ever, and I've been hearing a lot of things from people who visited during 2013, which was held as the best year of Fright Nights ever, and even they said that it is probably their favourite maze. So, you know, honestly, the best part about this maze, and I think the thing that's making it the most scary, is the amount of chainsaws. Now, when I went in there were 3 chainsaws in total, one in the normal section of the maze, one in the strobe section, and then one at the exit corridor. However, I have been hearing that they have added at least one more chainsaw, with having 2 in the strobe section. So if it wasn't scary enough, they've added even more now. So I would definitely recommend this maze if you're up for scares. Now, another good part of this maze is the theming. Now, the theming is probably the best theme I've ever seen in pretty much any sort of scare attraction, on par with the Alton Towers dungeons I experienced this year at Alton Towers. Absolutely phenomenal. I mean, you had a scene where you walked in, there was a guy laying on a table, and they had this massive like buzzsaw that was operated by one of the actors, and even squirts a bit of water out at you as you walk past, and you know, that really makes it for me. Like, the whole theme of it being a sawmill really does, you know, make me feel like, you know, I'm not in a very safe space. Because when you go into sawmill in real life, you'll know that they're quite a dangerous place to work in, and seeing that guy on that table getting destroyed by that saw really did put me out of my comfort a tiny bit. In regards to the storyline, absolutely great. The only problem I can fault with it is the pre-show room could use a little bit more lighting. Other than that, the actors really did explain the story very well. If you don't know what the story is, basically you're, you know, applied for a job at this sawmill just to find out that they're basically a group of mass murderers and psychopaths, and you're then chased through the maze, like I said, with some chainsaws. Now, I do think I got maybe a weaker run through of this, because as I've been watching videos and stuff, a lot of people have said that they did get someone with an axe that was in there chopping at them, and if that is so, then, you know, that's brilliant. And also, I've been hearing that some people have been separated from their group, taken it to different rooms, so, you know, if I thought my run through was scary, I cannot wait to maybe get on it again and have a completely different run through of the attraction. Okay, so this does mean that the video has to come to a close now. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to subscribe, like, anything that makes me know you guys like this type of content. So without further ado, I shall see you guys later.